And, if we could just make the show, would be impressive. You take a kid from runs Oregon and go back there with those guys that race all the time. Mm-hmm. If we could somehow pull out just making the main, it'll be, a huge boost.
You bet.
And if we could pull off a top 5, that would be, like, whoa, here is a home-built car racing with, I'm sure, a bunch of chassis cars.
You do really well there. Somebody might pick him up,
$5,000 on the line. What I say earlier in the show. When there's big money on, you don't count that kid out, man.
No, you don't.
Yeah, you just
Absolutely.
don't. I wish you guys the best. I hope
those last lap
no
deals, those are the ones that are really cool. I mean, it's a heart
Last
attack
year.
from my side, but his first Wallbanger was a last 10 feet against Bryson.
Yep, that's right.
Crazy.
That was nuts. I mean, Bryson went to protect the bottom because Kyle had been showing him colors underneath, and there was a lot of stick on top. And Kyle threw that car in on a Hail Mary, and it stuck. And
I've
never seen Bryson so bummed at the end of a race, man.
Yeah.
He was, he drove a heck of a race. The race got shortened, too, on that, So Kyle was working him hard. If they would have ran the full length, Kyle might have got around him a little earlier. But he had to throw a Hail Mary in when he seen the white flag come out. And, Bryson did what he had to do. He thought he had to throw a block in on the bottom to make sure Kyle didn't pull a slide job on him. And Kyle managed to pull the top around. And then what he did to David last year, David got tight trying to protect the bottom. And Kyle did that Hail Mary around the top. And it stuck. And that old rat rod, that thing won $8,000 last year.
Yeah. That car was $8,000 it won last year.
Yeah,
that was a finish. The Iron Giant race at Willamette last year. That finish
that was phenomenal.
I think there was 43 people in the audience that actually had heart attacks and passed away.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. I almost had. If you can go back, I've got the audio. I'll have to play it for you sometime. If you can go back and hear the audio of me calling that race, I was pretty sure I was going into cardiac arrest.
It sounded like it.
Oh my God!
I know. I missed the checkered flag when he backed it into the wall. I was just sunk.
It was
just like.
It was unbelievable.
$1,000 now,
that was 50. Was you guys walked out at $5,400?
54, wasn't it?
54.63 or something like that.
So weird.
Unbelievable for a street stock
crazy.
race.
It was so crazy from the pit side. You just start hearing, "Hey, it's up to 3,000 now. It's up to 3,500."
Yeah, we had no idea what was going on until it was up to like $4,000 already before we even knew what was happening back in the pits.
And the thing about that was, as people were bringing me money, they're bringing the money to either they were giving it to me or Sandy or Trish Duty, who was kind of helping out collect us money, and we would ask them, "Where do you want that money to go?" Every single person said, "Give it to the winner." Yep. That was like, whoa, we're gonna have a barn burner tonight, and sure enough, and
Debbie's up there trying to spread it out.
She was, yeah. And her son won the race. I'm pretty sure they didn't decide to spread it out. That was a pretty neat moment. I remember when Kyle crossed the line and it was just inches, and the 47 popped up on top of the 29, looking over at Debbie, and Debbie's face was just. She went from she's pretty serious about when she does that.
Very.
Yeah. So when that happened, she looked over at me, and there was a smile on her face and tears in her eyes. I thought, she is human. But it had to be looking down on that from the view of the Mux Tower. It had to be a pretty special moment for her.
Yeah,
it was
for all of us.
The fans are still talking about that one.
Yeah.
Sure,
that was a good one.
The thing that's cool with Kyle is he's not out bragging about it. He's just doing it.
He doesn't talk.
He doesn't have to. He's got Dad here.
You don't say like 3 words ever.
Right? But he'll help anybody. I mean, anybody that needs some help, we'll help him. I mean, we were down at freaking Medford. Jordan McDonald rolls in. Corey and Kyle were both front to back underneath his car, nutting and bolting that thing because their bolts weren't tight on it. He doesn't want to win a race because you can't finish. He wants to win a race against anybody. I mean, I've been over there helping Roberts, make an axle fit in a car because he had his full spool and he got one with a mini spool and now his axles are too long. So we've been over there cutting axles and getting him set up and stuff.
Sure. A perfect example of that is just earlier in the year, young driver at Willamette, Dakota Goddard, came to Kyle and said, "Hey, I got this Monte Carlo. I know you know these cars pretty good. Can you help me?" And Kyle says, yeah, sure. And then you guys took a look at the car, and Kyle pretty much said, yep, whole thing's wrong. You know, and
Change
they
everything.
pretty much. And look at what it's done for Dakota as a young driver.
He's running Kyle's shock package right now. Even.
And he said, I talked to Dakota. Say that 3 times
Easy
fast.
for you to say.
I talked to Dakota, and Dakota said, yep. He goes, our shocks were completely opposite of what they should have been compared to what Kyle wants us to run.
He was pretty much talking about the whole setup that day. We talked to him.
Yeah.
You know, that he was running Kyle's setup.
He said, I don't know how this car turning. He goes, he goes, now
it was like a new car to him.
And that's what he said. He goes, once they put Kyle's setup on, he says, this car just...
He came around quick. You know, that first race was a little sluggish, but, man, right after that, he turned it around.
We were at Banks, and I think it was DeBarzier. I think it was him. I'm not sure on that. But he was one of the street guys was parked next to us. It was a metric car. And he was asking what we were running for springs, and I told him, and he sat there and told me I was basically lying and that you can't run that soft as a spring on it. And he said, I did that once, and I pulled the spring out, and it was 4 inches shorter than what it was when I put it in. And I'm like, well, then I don't know what to tell you. I'm telling you the truth. If you don't think I'm telling you, just quit asking me. At that point in time. It's like, you know, we're not really doing any big secrets. Of course, everybody's got their one little nick that they do differently than everybody else, but you know, we do what we do, and we do what we can afford to do. We don't go out begging and borrowing, you know. And Kyle wrecked his mod last year down at, and Brian stepped up, you know, and offered to let us use him, you know. And I'm just like, you know, Brian, it's great that you offered. We really appreciate it, but you know, we already got one car to fix, and we can't afford to fix two.
Right.
You know, so you know. If we can't do it on our own, we're just not doing it.
Right. Well, it's a smart way to race because we've seen how many guys lose houses and wives and families and bank accounts. You know, it's just...
God, you know, I mean, you borrow somebody's motor and you don't know what you're getting. You know, and you put your carburetor on it and it's not enough and you melt it down, you know. So now instead of one motor to rebuild, you got two to rebuild. And you know, unless somebody steps up and says, you know, use it no matter what, I won't use somebody else's, you know. And I mean, it's... And I don't think we ever have yet at this point, you know. So I think Kyle's gotten fortunate to drive a few cars for other people. Hopefully, Gil hit me up earlier about him coming out and running his Super Sport for him when he's going to be off.
Oh, good.
Hopefully that works out. That'd be cool to see Kyle.
That'd be interesting to watch.
Super Sport again. I mean, he jumped into one a while back and did pretty good, but then had troubles with the car. But, you know, so... Yeah, you know, he jumped into a late model once and went out and set fast time with it that night on one lap.
I remember that. And
that was this season?
No,
that was a couple seasons ago.
A couple years ago, and they put it was a last minute deal because the
Lynn
driver
McDonald's car. You know?
Right, yeah.
So I'm sure when Lynn showed up at the racetrack and heard his car had fast time, he had to be, what? You know, I mean, it's a Swartz car. It's not a new car. Didn't have the best of everything on it.
No, they'd even taken the held-up shock out of it because he didn't like it. And the sad thing is Kyle came in after that and he said, you know, I think I could even went faster. You know, he says, I know there was more there.
I know it surprised everybody when Kyle went out and qualified fast time with that car. That was definitely fun to watch. I wish they would have let him drive that car that night.
Well, at least do the dash.
Yeah, I wish they would have let him do it just to see what could have been.
Of course, dashes are pretty hard to win from the back row, but, you know, it can be done.
Sam, our video tech, just hits us up and he says, never putting a camera on the back of Kyle's ride ever again. We had one on, I think it was Kyle's car that actually lost a camera at Cottage Grove.
Yeah.
Oh, it was, yeah.
And
Heard that story so many times.
Brian Crockett actually found the camera while he was
the
grading
next
it.
day.
Yeah.
Yes.
And brought it to the pit meeting and said, by the way, you know, if you know whose camera this is, and Dakota had heard that we'd lost it off the back of Kyle's car, and says, oh, I know who is, you know, it goes to Moxie.
It's amazing he got that back. I mean, we looked for it the night before, walking the front stretch there. And
Kyle's not afraid
I told him, just write it off, dude. It is gone.
Yeah.
And amazingly, it came
well, no,
out.
that was actually,
awesome.
I'm sorry, that was actually on the back of Evan's car. The camera that Sam
right,
is talking about, the camera Sam is talking about was at Willamette. We bought a brand new camera, the night before.
On the modified.
Yes, put it on the back of the modified at Willamette. Didn't get through the first heat race, and the car gets hit in the back, and never saw the camera ever again.
I think
that one never came up either.
I can see Sam's next text.
I think Kyle just used the wall to turn on. I don't think he got hit in the back.
No, I think someone got into the back of him, if I remember right, knocked it off the car.
Maybe.
But
I know Kyle's not afraid to use the wall to turn.
Well, you do
I've hit the wall to fix my toe.
Like they say, the closer you run to the wall, you don't hit it as hard.
I found that out at Salem Speedway.
Yeah.
Only the opposite. I went from the bottom of the track to the top, and ouch.
If you're going to run the top, Kinsey, go to the top.
Yeah,
don't
just
go
stay
halfway.
right up there. Yeah, okay.
Ask Rob. Ask Kyle.
Yeah.
You know, those guys are inches off that wall all the way around.
Yeah, you know.
It's unbelievable.
Ask Gray.
Sometimes that's the fast way.
Well, it is.
New video, yeah.
Momentum. So I want to go back and talk about that Wallbanger because how do you not?
We're just talking about.
Yeah.
Well, no, we weren't talking about it. We were talking about losing the
talking
camera.
about wall banging.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, didn't mean to get them mixed up.
How many times have you hit the wall, Kenzie?
Once.
That is a race.
Like thinking.
I haven't
You
been
need more
that.
practice.
I think I should stay away from that
That
race.
wasn't even anything.
I think I should stay away from that Wallbanger because every time I don't show up, Kyle wins it.
Huh?
I haven't
Are you
gone the
talking
last
about
3
Iron
years.
Giant?
No, the Wallbanger.
Oh, well,
The
okay.
wall banger.
I haven't been there the last 3 years, and Kyle wins it every time.
Oh yeah.
But you know, the
should
impressive
stay
thing
away.
about that is three different cars. That's the thing.
Yeah, you know, I mean, and, you know, for him to be back in a metric, you know, it wasn't too big of a surprise. The big surprise was actually the Camaro. I mean, we threw the engine in the Camaro the week before that, and he took it out, and he literally was not going to the Wallbanger Cup. It was Friday night that we decided we were going to change all 4 springs in that Camaro, put weight jacks in it. We had the rear end out of it twice that morning. I drove down to Eugene to get front springs. He went and got rear springs from Danny Altman, and we changed all 4 springs, weight jacks in that car that morning before the Wallbanger Cup, and then drove down there and the car worked.
Wow. That's
nice.
That's a lot of work to go out and win the feature.
And we decided Friday night that we were going to do this because Corey went down there and raced cage cards.
Oh.
Yeah. That's man, that's crazy.
But that's kind of the way we do stuff.
Well,
you know.
So let me ask you a question. The Wallbanger Cup, I think, is a prime example of what the Road to the Iron Giant series can be on a weekly basis.
Yeah, you know, it just takes a buy-in by everybody to do it. And it's tough, you know. I mean, you only have so many races at each track every year. So to give up 8-10 races at your track a year of cars that, you know, are big supporters of your track, where you get a lot of your money from. You know, when you don't pay huge purses, you know, everybody that comes in that back gate in those street stocks, you know, that helps support your track every week. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's kind of like back in the day when you remember the late models were trying to, you know, Irely starting that series. And they were asking Claire to quit racing, you know, for like 10 late model races a year. Of course, Claire told him no, you know. And it'd be like you got Jetstream Massage here. I go across the hall and I open up a Jetstream Massage and I ask you to close Tuesdays and Thursdays so I could get some customers to come in. Mm-hmm. You're going to say no.
Absolutely.
You know, and if I charge, you know, $9 a minute or whatever, you know, you're going to charge $8 a minute. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, you're going to do what you can to keep me from being successful.
Right.
You want to be successful. And that's what Claire tried to do back in those days, you know, when he got gigged for, you know, let's put it, you know, he's the one that built late models up to what they were
Absolutely.
in the valley.
Absolutely.
You know. Yeah.
Well, it made it the premier late model track in the Western United States.
You know, I mean, come on. We all remember the day all 3 classes were on the back of one sheet of paper.
Yep.
You know, for the rules. And,
oh, yeah.
And it was some of the best times that, you know, you've seen around. And, you know, and like I was saying earlier, if you're going to make rules, you need to check them, you know, and check them.
You didn't enforce them.
You know. So the less rules you have, the easier it is to check, you know. And
yeah.
You know, if it's a cast iron head and cast iron block, it's pretty easy to tech. Then you start putting camshaft rules in there, crate motors. You know, I mean, anybody can buy sealing bolts, you know. And so, you know, you can do if it's not getting opened up and checked, who says it's legal or not? Whether it is or not, I hope they're all legal, just because of the sport. But without somebody verifying they're legal, I think a lot of guys have a hard time with that part of the buy-in.
Mm-hmm.